Okay, this is electric guitar for worship. Boot Camp 101 for dummies and people who didn't go to conservatory to study music or anything. So what I'm going to do is talk about tone and some playing styles. Oh, and this is going to be in 2 parts. So, part 1. Somebody gets up there with an electric guitar and I'm like, oh cool, let's see what they do. And they literally just plug the thing right into the snake and just like play the chords. That's just really boring. Not that there's anything wrong with just playing chords and playing rhythm guitar, but if you're gonna do that, get an acoustic guitar. This should be kind of obvious, but in case it's not, it's the difference between this and this. But even clean tone has tone. So all that to say, plug it into something, do some stuff to it. So whether you're using an amp or pedals or an iPhone like I do. Yes, I use an iPhone. Haters gonna hate. There are a few basic elements to shaping your tone. First of all, compression. Sometimes called sustain, basically makes the quieter parts of your sound louder and the louder parts of your sound quieter. It kind of helps to even out your tone, and it helps to allow you to hold notes longer. All right, distortion, or drive, or overdrive it's sometimes called, basically takes the signal and, well, distorts it. There's a lot of variety within distortion, depending on how you set it up, but it could be anything from like a kind of a warm crunch to a really biting, nasty sound. Okay, then we have delay, or echo, which takes your sound and repeats it. Usually, you can set how loud it is, the mix, how much it repeats, feedback, and how fast it repeats, speed. Sometimes you can even set the speed based on the tempo of the song and like a rhythm value. Next, there's reverb. Reverb is a little like delay, but it's more about making your guitar sound like it's in a specific space. So for example, a small room or a huge concert hall. And last but not least, there's EQ. This is where you affect the frequencies of your sound. I'm not gonna get into EQ a lot in this video. It's just a little bit, it kind of depends a lot on what you're playing it out of and if you're going into a board and if you're playing with other people. It's a whole other video. Maybe I'll make a video about that at some point. All right, so there are more effects, of course, but I think these are a good basic few to start out with. Okay, but with all these tools, what do you do? Before I answer that, I think we need to take a step back and remember the point of worship music. It's, you know, it's easy to get caught up in all these technical details. But ultimately it's all for God's glory. It's all about pointing our hearts and our minds and the hearts and minds of the congregation toward what Christ has done for us. In his book, Worship Matters, highly recommended, Bob Kauflin says that the gospel is like a priceless painting, and the worship music that we're making is like the frame that goes around the painting. If the frame is too shabby, then it makes people think that the painting isn't worth anything. But if it's too elaborate, it draws attention away from the painting. So that's the line we have to try to walk when we're leading worship music. And I could probably, and will probably, do a whole other video about that. But let's just say it matters. And keeping that in mind matters even when thinking about something as technical as guitar tones. Okay, with all that said, I think there are a few styles of tone that are most useful in playing worship music. All right, starting out with clean and spacious. This is sort of a clean guitar sound with some compression and a lot of reverb, maybe even a little bit of delay too. By the way, the order of those effects matters too. I don't have time to get into it all here, but usually I would add the effects in the same order that I listed them earlier. So that would be compression, distortion, delay, reverb, EQ. Next is delayed and edgy. If you have just a bit of overdrive and a dotted eighth note delay, I'll get to that later, with just a smidge of reverb, you get this nice sound that's good for just adding some rhythmic texture. Let's face it, this is basically the U2 sound. But I'm okay with that. The dotted eighth note delay is basically, if this is your beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the delay is set to go like this. The delay is like 3/4 of an entire beat. Which looks like this in musical notation. Learn something new every day. Then you have your classic old sharp and punchy. You crank up the compression and the distortion, but keep the delay and reverb basically to a minimum or completely gone. This is a real like driving sound, good for energetic, upbeat songs. Finally, we've got epic and powerful. This is sort of a mixture of two of them. You take the compression and distortion from the sharp and punchy sound and add the delay and reverb of the clean and spacious sound, and you get this. Perfect for those big chords on your mid-tempo worship anthems, which is like 90% of worship music right now. All right, that's it, at least for discussion of tone. In the next video, we're going to talk about 4 different playing styles that I think are most useful in worship settings. And we'll talk about how to think through how to use them dynamically throughout a song. So see you then.